I've been struggling while I sit here in this chair. But fortunately, we've just found out there's someone who's decided to be an accomplice in one of these rooms. Is this room? Apparently, the person who's living there has actually been in contact with Zubia Francis. His voice has just been projected from there a few minutes ago, and the audience just commented that that person is being taught or groomed. That's a patient being groomed to be sexually assaulting me. So it doesn't take a genius or a doctor to use their advanced technology. I can't believe this. The doctor on Wednesday morning asked me, is it possible that that criminal can infiltrate staff here? I looked at her and directed the answer straight back at her because I can never know who's who. So I said, well, I wouldn't expect so because in your professional capacity, you're under oath to do no harm at all times. And so we continued with the conversation. The day after, or somewhere along the line, Sophia said, I'm not going to be able to approach the staff here. I'm not going to be able to approach. I'm just going to have to try and kill her with technology. I think the very next morning, I woke up to Officer Mohammed softly speaking to Zubir, trying to convince him to let me be married to my husband. As if it has not happened. We vowed to each other already. And he kept on talking to him like a child who was throwing a tantrum, who was stuck in an episode. He continued to attack me. I could hear from a distance. I was busy trying to make money on my cash apps. And Officer Mohammed kept on addressing him as a Calvin and kept saying to him, Calvin, regayende. It's okay, regayende. In my language, we would say, that's to say, Calvin, let him go. But that's only because Zubir was incurring the personality disorder thing. Calvin is the actual homeowner of the flat 4 Oak House where he lives, where he's a tenant, where he pretends to be taking care of a mental health patient. And so their knowledge of how Hannah has been treated, perhaps in the past to present day, is how they managed to fake raise concern about me. And I was treated like a villain. They were actually discussing it between the hours of 4 to 5 a.m. How to get me killed in a mental health institute. So that room I've just shown you, there is someone who actually has direct contact with Zubia Francis, who got a link to the app. And is learning how to sexually violate me from advanced technology, the criminal way. Now, this is not foreign because in 2024, there's a woman who was living alone up north, I think, in England, and she was compensated about £39,000. Obviously, there were investigations, and they found it totally possible. Perhaps someone was apprehended. Now, perhaps because officers would rather have believed at the time that Zubia Francis was somehow being taken advantage of by Hannah, because he has cried foul often enough. Since 2023, after the Zimbabwean elections, they were done with possible candidates, even in the future. I wonder what that meant. People who have acquired sexual health diseases through flat for all cows, it's never too late to reach out for help or to give up this sexual predation ring. The modern slavery thing. Goodness gracious, there's so many aspects to this gang. Cowards. No one should be afraid of them. That's why I'm speaking up. I was intimidated, briefly, since they started confessing in July 2025. It's somewhat empowering to hear a predator so cocky and entitled, confessing, announcing, amplifying their voice to their live audiences while they make money doing that. Confessing things to the effect of, I'm not a Muslim, I'm a radicalist. So pompous. Subir Francis obviously has access to that sort of technology and personnel as a security guard who's worked at the NHS Queen's Hospital in Romford. Anything I've said, anything I've reported, is derived from his confessions, admissions, even snitching on his co-criminal partner, Hannah. Not his wife, take note, because in August, they totally gave each other up. They've been doing that here and there. Things like how they swap sexual partners. And then in November, we're really trying to stick to one each. Zubia with Fatima, Hannah with Zain. The older version, the older looking version of Adam, Zubia's son. He got quite deadly, delusions of grandeur. Decided to try out killing me using technology developed from magnetic resonance imaging, MRI scans. Anyone been on those? When you go for an appointment with that, they help you get into this tunnel where they scan your body. You shouldn't have anything magnetic, especially not taped. It will interfere with the whole process. You should lie down very, very still. It scans any part of your body. One morning around 5 a.m., I woke up with Zubir announcing, amplifying his voice into my property, addressing me, shouting, "Bitch face, now you just heard I can upload even dead bodies onto the app." This guy is such an entitled criminal. He was showing off about being able to scan even dead bodies onto an app. Where did they get a dead body from? Well, let's see. In 2024, we struggled with getting our bins emptied from the bin storage area. It was just blocked. The only person in the block who made a habit of going to hide in there is Hannah. She apparently was hiding in there almost 5 weeks, and it wasn't Christmas holiday. Wednesdays is when the refuse collection team normally comes, but they weren't coming. In 2025, late 2025, then found out that the missing keys may have belonged to the man. He had offered Hannah, or maybe, I don't know. This man basically offered Hannah an egg sandwich. She's allergic to egg. And her thought process was, you're trying to kill me. Now you go first. And so 5 weeks it took, perhaps to get rid of the body. Oh, I don't know what she was doing in there because, well, they do boast about being witches. And there was the thing about snakes. Buying Adam a toy, long blue python, and grooming him into witchcraft. Well, that's for investigators. I mean, it's not foreign for criminals to hire forensics, fortune tellers. It's 2026, there are tarot books even on the stores, in the stores, on shelves, you know. But that's not really my thing. I'm just saying these guys are criminals. They're trying anything and everything. The relevance of maybe the rituals is that Hannah's been called the police to complain that she was struggling to kill me because I was praying again too much. Spiritually strong. I didn't know it was a crime. Tonight they had tried to start again the whole Muslim jihad thing. Zubir had to be reminded that you say you're not a Muslim, you're a radicalist. So you can't start this thing that you instigated in Nigeria again. So these guys are totally terrorists, organizing such dangerous crimes, locally and globally. Now I can actually approach that patient in that room. But my very being here is making this place a crime scene. Apparently me sitting in this chair makes Subir think he can hide what he's doing, and yet the whole audience is, it's not even just the audience. They've done something to force our phones to make us respond, to make us pick out even what the audience says when the mics are way at a distance. Because yesterday we found out when someone was walking around outside in the grounds, he was well on his way, rapping, practicing his tunes. That's a basketball net right there, basketball board. And suddenly he was picking up what the audience was announcing. Their mics are way into the distance right now. This camera may not have picked up what the audience was saying. But the man who was on the ground down here picked it up, and those were not his words. That's the first time I actually picked that up, because there have been some confusing incidences where people don't even have time to prove that it's not their thoughts or not their expressions, but things have come out of their mouths. I don't know how they're doing it. I'm not the one doing it. So, even as I opened this window earlier, I went out. I had it much wider open and went out, and that audience was saying, "You have no idea how much technology is now put in that room." So someone could come in here and start picking up someone else's expressions. This should be totally illegal, because if you can access someone's thoughts or expose someone's thoughts like that, it can be totally dangerous. What I studied when I was studying my nursing degree is that at some age, some people can lose the ability to filter the information that they disclose to other people. Say, for example, elderly people, when they struggle with dementia. They're totally vulnerable in that state because they cannot hide, perhaps, that they're feeling hatred towards people who are caring for them, which makes them open to abuse. So then people who approach them to take care of them have to be trained to be able to overcome that so that they do them no harm. Now, just imagine that you're just out here in a place where people are quite territorial, in a place where people don't really, they may understand actually the game more than I do, because the game was never designed to support me. The game was designed to attack me. So perhaps they pick up that I am being assaulted or that I am being brutally beaten up while I sit with them or while I walk or just here in my room on my own. These brutal attacks are such as the ones that Parliament has been discussing, that the police have to be more prepared to respond urgently to attacks of the cyberbullying nature, attacks of advanced technology nature, because with this capability, I spoke with an officer about Air India recently, and the officer quickly dismissed Zubia Francis, saying there was no bomb on the plane. It just blew up. I was like, I hadn't said there was a bomb. I'm actually not sure what happened because Zubia just said, of course, I had a hand in blowing up Air India. So, okay, the officer may have been right, there was no bomb, but that's not what I was reporting. But why be dismissive about it? So it's good that the Home Secretary has been discussing this in Parliament, that there needs to be empowerment of the officers so that they know how to respond. Because a few years ago, there was someone who was just using laser technology to disturb police helicopters, when they ride overhead and they're looking for suspects and things. Yeah, someone got arrested for interfering with the course of justice, interfering with the investigation, I suppose. This is what Zubia and Hannah do. When officers approach them, sometimes they take turns to hide away and lie to the police. I'm sure there's a clause somewhere that says that's arrestable offenses too. Because when Hannah has lied that Zubia moved out a month prior and then spends the whole week moving around the little Honda Civic car OE07HKO, that's the number plate, there's a problem there. And then this very same person is still allowed to be free in the community. The one who is now being called the mental health patient who Zubia Francis is taking care of. When it suits, that's the rhetoric. And when it suits, they call the police on me and say that I'm mentally ill. Today I heard a different version. Sorry, yesterday. We're now in the AMs of Sunday morning. So yesterday I heard a different version that I've been getting text messages saying you've called numerous times to the police. I haven't called in the last few days, but I've been having those messages. That was a problem that I was now facing until one of the officers explained to me that it means they're branding you as a hawk's collar. And then I found out about the discussions in Parliament. I was like, we've now reached the mistakes have been made zone. So with Hannah apparently then admitting to an officer that she was a mental health patient after having called the police and probably impersonated me. Well, at least that officer came out and said Hannah is a mental health patient. And he then said, no, this is an NHS issue because she had complained that I'm praying too much and she can't kill me. That's why he left her there. That attempted murder admission should really be something to be looked into. But the officer, what was the name? What's the name? It's like his last name sounds like the name of an Indian god. Irish, something. Okay, it's quite a long name to pronounce. But that officer turned up with the team that brought me in as if they were escorting a villain. Thank goodness they did not make the mistake of cuffing me the way I react to metal. Enough said. So many lies were expressed that morning, including blaming my family for calling them. Fortunately, my mother turned up and to their surprise, this time I actually spoke with her and found out that they woke her up. They woke my mother and father up. I've been keeping a safe distance from them, but those conversations we've had have been helpful for me to decipher what's actually going on. How we proceed is none of anyone's business anyway, but for the officers to know, because they've been intimidated in the past to cooperate with Zubia Francis, and they're not totally out of the woods yet, because Zubia Francis is still there. So I still tread carefully, but should they turn up, I will spend some time with them and see what's happening. Because a lot has happened. He has totally affected their lives, both of them, including my siblings. intimidated them to the worst possible situations. That's why I made a video the other day. Do not fear. Remove the ignitions of fear. Stand up to Zubair and Hannah. Zubair Francis is a coward. He's hiding behind all those technology attacks. Excuse me. Should you fall anywhere near me, if I'm in the area, it's because they're filming a large part of the area and they can identify people before I even look that way. That audience will be announcing what they're seeing from a distance. So it's not just about what happened to my eyes. Goodness gracious. These people are ridiculously entitled. Officer Mohammed was begging Zubair, calling him Calvin, let her go. And then yesterday he came in with a different tone. Whenever he expresses just a slight, I'm getting him arrested, unfortunately it quickly gets extinguished. What can I say? There is someone who intentionally befriended me. I didn't realize at the time that she was used to dating married men. So, in the political field, that is. When I then spent time with her as a student nurse, she did try to dig to find out who I was dating. She hacked me. And then when she got heartbroken, she made it her mission to introduce my boyfriend to someone else. They had criminal intent. Get the family wealth and kill him. He thought he was doing something noble for his family because the young girl that Lucy Chirengo had befriended. Oh, I mention her name because she's the one who mostly clouds Officer Mohammed's judgment and delays his urgency in getting his colleagues to support him. I thought maybe they were refusing to support him, to back him up, but it seems he continuously gets delayed because he starts speaking to her in that audience. She's not an officer, so I don't know. If you know any officers, you can share this video with them. I probably will tag, but goodness gracious. Mohammed has had countless demonstrations of how Zubair, Hannah, and Zain can demonstrate what they're doing. It's not just me. There are situations like those beatings, they do them from a distance. People's knees will suddenly turn in and they'll be walking in as if they're waddling, as if something's happened to them. The knees actually get knocky. But as long as you can just keep moving, the limbs just come back to themselves. I saw it on one night when I was coming from a church near Moni Road. Someone had been out on a night out on a Friday. Could smell a bit of booze on them. They just totally turned their legs in. And he kept on going. So it's not something that, well, of course, if he increases the intensity, you can just buckle and have to stand there for quite a while. But the attacks are muscle degenerative. Now, depending on the audience, I've been told of countless times by this stupid Zubair man that you're costing me customers. I'm losing customers because of your behavior. Do you know, he addresses me as if we had some sort of contract, as if one day we sat down and discussed that I would help him abuse me. The audacity. I think he thinks fear is the transaction. That's a totally cruel, horrifically demonic level of criminal mind. I was watching a movie once, and because he's so intrusive, he was amplifying his voice as if he was in my flat. And so sometimes I will have to shout. Sometimes I have to open the door and actually address, like look towards their flat and address them. And you know, before Tuesday, just before Tuesday, it may have been on a Sunday morning, Sunday night, when I stepped out of my property to look through towards theirs, and I found Zubir crouching down by the patio doors. So he was on one knee, the other leg open. I think he had perhaps strapped himself so that I can feel him doing something to himself. Do you know how disgusting that is? This man absolutely disgraces my life. Such a disgusting human being. And yet at some point every day, he has a moment where he starts thinking or admiring, should I watch something, even a short video on YouTube? Or I watch something with a love message in it. He starts to think, oh, maybe if I had been nicer to her, I could have married her. Such a stupid person. It's a bit too late to even think of things like that. And he did confess a few nights ago that every time he greeted me, it was to assess me, to see how he could access me, because he was put in that flat as an assassin. The thing Lynette Verumu had disclosed was that she put Hannah into flat for Oak House first to cover up so that Hannah would seduce her ex-husband, and then they would cover up the marriage breakdown as her ex-husband's fault for infidelity. He didn't take the bait. She had already tried to kill him, take note, and he was running away from the situation in another country and coming back into the United Kingdom. Now, I don't know who arrived to the United Kingdom before the other, because when he was let out, they had already been paid, so they just told him, run, so that she doesn't know, we've let you go. But he often was coming to Flat 4 Oak House to pick her up, to try and get her back to Zimbabwe. The story is a bit strange, but where people are able to mind control others, whether it's hypnosis, whether it's witchcraft, whatever it is, it's a very cruel way to micromanage someone. Very, very cruel. Fortunately, sometimes in that audience, you can tell that perhaps there's been some sort of recuperation from what she did to him, because he doesn't suck up to her anymore. Thank goodness for that. But I'm not out of the woods yet, because occasionally, goodness, we just need a miracle. Perhaps an exorcism. Gosh, sometimes the people that were my friends or affiliates, unfortunately exes, sometimes they just come in and say the most negative thing in very unfortunate moments, and to be taking the blame for people who are actually terrorists, to be likening yourselves, to think that you might actually match up to such atrocious behavior. I pity those situations for them. I don't even know if they'll ever be able to take courage to stand up for me, but I won't stop standing up for myself. And sometimes they express things like, she's gone before me, I wanted to do this for her. I can't afford that luxury of thinking people must go through a rap session first or recite the most annoying poetry in attacking me before they actually extend and being, or before they actually start to realize again that I'm a human being and they're not watching me from a dark web sort of perspective, where they do humanize me in order to be able to be comfortable with attacking me, whether it's verbally or just character assassination. Basically, that's what that audience is. It's very, very cruel. Apparently, that's what the aim of the blame game is. To just be attacking Caroline, Carush, Chisom, to just be dehumanizing me. I would like to appeal to officers if in your spare time you've tuned into the dark web and found me in, say, compromising positions, because part of it was to shame me as a Christian woman, to portray Lynette Verimo as a better Christian woman for Calvin, the real Calvin. For years, I think that was the aim. When I moved on and was with other partners, we had no idea we were being filmed in that flat. I stepped back from ministry, from overt ministry, because of how it can be conflicting for people who might misunderstand and having been looking up to me or something. However, these people shouldn't mistake my stepping back for weakness. I know how I was progressing, and by God's grace, I'm okay with the path that I took. Fortunately, somehow, He's made a way for me, for it to be different. Although I do not owe people answers, I have put up a video earlier to encourage people to meditate on scripture for yourself so that you know your own pathway and not be blaming other people or judging other people or leaving off other people's experiences alone. It's not sufficient. Because when we make our choices, when we step back, I totally know my conversations with God about my progression into relationships. But I would not recommend it for just anyone, because I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what you face. It's not an ordinary situation. I would rather encourage you to stay on the straight and narrow if you don't understand the things or you don't have the discernment to go through things a certain way. I would encourage you just do the 1+1 thing. Not every principle is applicable that I have used for you, for your life. Anyway, back to the criminal activities. It's a bit useless approaching. I think I've just used that example, especially for the Christian officers. So please, try and be objective. I did speak to another young man who then was realizing the whole laser technology thing, because I had already discovered the day before that Zubir accessed some modern tech machines in Queen's Hospital and was inviting doctors to his property, demonstrating what he was learning, probably asking them to give him some input as to how to develop the technology he was using, unfortunately for harmful purposes. And in 2024, even in 2023, a lot of people were invited into Flat for Oak House, but left running through the patio doors at the back via the communal gardens. A lot, every day, someone was running out of there. I remember being abused for doing my hair. And apparently my hair became mic'd, such that I could hear their clues, well, it wasn't clues, it's their conversations through the strands of my hair. I'll just say the last part, so that he can victimize that Kia man right next door. There was a time in 2024, I'll take a walk, even going to the shop. We're just taking a walk, wearing jeans, and should they rub against each other, I'd pick up what the audience was saying. There were multiple layers of people speaking, people singing, rapping, saying all sorts of things indistinctively, sometimes very distinctively. It was all so mixed up. But still, the common factor is also very abusive towards me. Because apparently Hannah created this to be attacking me. And to serve her purpose of making sure Zubia stays available to her. I guess in Lynette's absence, because Lynette always comes back to England to pick up some sort of prescription, which is when she reminds Hannah that they are not married by engaging with him sexually. Yesterday, I had another unfortunate occasion of hearing that Zubia was considering that all my days I could have married her. I will be in this little room here. I haven't been here before, but since Tuesday, all the ladies in this block, not all of them will speak about it, but by now all of them are aware that while I'm in here, I'm either getting brutal, violent pains while I'm sleeping, my back is getting burnt, I'm being sexually assaulted using all that technology stuff that they have developed. And so sometimes even if nurses are walking down the corridor, they might just avoid my door for a moment. Once they pick up that lady is getting voyeurized. Voyeurism, I think, is a sexual offense, crime, being filmed. You know, back in the day, if you ever heard the revenge attacks, when maybe a scorned previous partner breaks into a home, plants some camera devices, and then exposes the person's footage or shameful attacks, hateful attacks, shares the video footage or pictures with other people in their community so that the person just feels so ashamed and has nowhere else to go and probably has to move cities and change identities. That's what these guys have been doing to me since 2020. I had no idea. And now using smart technology, being able to just speak into an AI coding algorithm that can affect whatever I'm doing on my phone. I'm using my phone right now to film. And so when I work on my Bitcoin Cash apps, when I'm about to collect money, these guys affect the algorithm so badly. Sometimes they just disable the app. Hannah lately has been saying, I'm going to have to rely on AI to slow her down. So cruel. After having interfered with my banks, my property accounts, the repairs of my property, Hannah actually claims that she runs Riverside, which used to be one housing association. I'm starting to believe her because even though we were in dispute of, and we're still waiting to finish fixing the area around the patio doors, but they're already demanding their rent charges. We co-own the property together. They're not taking into consideration that when I had money, I was the one who was asking them, what are the arrears like? Because I wanted to divide the amounts and spread it over a period so that I could pay back in comfortable installments. I was ignored. So towards the year end of 2025, that's when I started getting 12,000 first, then 13,000. We're around 15 now. Well, upon being asked about and I didn't disclose this when these guys came for me, but the very next day, the audience kept on talking about how Hannah may have interacted with the doctor because she asked me a very specific question about the arrears being about 14,000. And I said, I didn't question her about how she knew. I was being quite objective. What I realized, though, that was important to talk about was I should be out there. Yesterday, I missed an opportunity to go and make money. I could have apportioned some of that money to those rentals. I could at least deposited something and pleaded with them to bear with me instead of them taking my property. That's been one of the discussions in Flat for Oak House, to make sure that I lose my property. That was the aim, even with the Barclays bank account. I had a strong overdraft facility, £2,500. I'm not sure what Subir and Hannah said to one of the customer service, but all of a sudden my overdraft was cut back. And then I tried to pay something into the account and the money just would not reflect. And then found out that these guys had already tampered with my business communications. So they refused to check out some of the fraud accounts. Subir may have been promising some of the fraud personnel that if you don't give her anything, we can share it amongst ourselves. It was £5,014 worth of fraudulent transactions. My bank card had been stolen before. My phone had been stolen from the property. And now I know all this time anything disappeared. It was actually Hannah, because she would use the front door to gain an entry. Subir once crashed into the patio doors, which are at the back. Oh my goodness gracious, pardon me. And so when I changed the locks, in desperation, I suppose, he hacked my computer in a much more obvious way and forgot to remove his name. Because once I had taken a screenshot, that's when he removed his name right in front of me. So the whole thing about calling someone paranoid really does not stand, because I actually have a screenshot with his name on it. I had never looked for him. I didn't think it was him, actually. When I was hearing people crying that they have to actually appear unkind to stop their families from approaching, they were trying to protect their people in a way that's really cruel to me. Oh, excuse me. So that they don't get bullied by this terrorist. I still say to you, you need to stand up for yourselves, because Bear is a total coward. Without that technology, he's nothing. So even if he attacks, those attacks are temporary. He has been known to attend people's properties or lure people into certain regions. For example, he tried to drown a doctor. Apparently the doctor works in Apney. Apney is a place where people are checked out for sexual health diseases. So many versions of why he did that have been raised. I shan't get into so much because I've already shared a video of how Gamchira Neta falls into this situation. I don't know. Apparently she's one of the best girls too. Regardless, these people are totally making a mess of our lives right now. It's pointless just saying, Zubia, why am I opting in? Zubia did not create you. Did not create you. You have to choose. You still have to choose. Even if he paid you something, even if being in that app, in the studio audience, is paying you something. As soon as you hear someone is a radicalist, you need to get hold of somebody else to help you report this unfortunate turnout of events. Very inappropriate. Can't have people continue to check and assess me to see if I am AI generated or not. In person. So not like behind the scenes or behind a screen or like on Instagram. In person. It's not fair. Some people may think that it's just, oh, we're complimenting. You know, it's actually not fair, because right now I'm dealing with criminal activities. A compliment is fine, but saying things like, do you know what? You know, there's just a criminal mentality that I just cannot deal with. I'd really rather not be dealing with. So if you know me, you just know me, just like cut back the whole I'm opting in, I'm opting out thing. Just try to speak normal. Try to salvage normalcy, because this guy and Hannah have already been saying they're taking us to hell. Well, sorry, not us, not me, you guys, the people playing games. The people who, if someone asks you, what are you opting in? Because I've noticed that some people are actually doing the whole opting in, opting out on each other now, and not just me. So in case you're being invited by Zubi and Hannah to their version of hell, where they speak of gonorrhea as if they're sweets, hey, good luck to you, but please do get checked out. If you're not going to heed that sexual health diseases are dangerous and harmful, please get checked out as soon as possible. Report, escalate. These guys are, they're really, really dangerous now because they're so entitled. But I wouldn't be afraid of them. They have delusions of grandeur, if that makes more sense. That's what makes them a little bit scary, but all you have to do is take courage. Don't give in to the fear. Don't feed it. Don't ignite it. Deal with it very objectively. Whatever they've said, however they defend themselves, if there's no defense, whichever way, communicate. Don't hold back ever about these criminals. They sent someone to go and start war in Israel, for crying out loud. So Beard laughed about burning 271 people on an aircraft. Air India, the one with one survivor. Oh, I'm tired of talking about these criminals and waiting for the anti-terror team to actually address those criminals. Apparently for a long time, the desire was for me to be away from my flat so that they can go in and make an arrest. I'm starting to wonder, is it simply just because you're going to go in and make an arrest, or is there something being covered up? Because why did I have to be leaving my property? It's not making sense to me. Because should you decide that you want to put Hannah somewhere, it cannot be in a ward like this. It's got to be Broadmoor level if you're going to make it a mental health thing instead of a criminal, proper, straight up criminal thing. I'm tired. Let me try and make money. I've been watching this drama app.